So in this video, we're going to talk about warehouses, this is in the context of the Riverscapes Consortium. And the Riverscape Warehouses is basically a data standard, and we pretty much all the warehouses. I mean, you can host one of these things locally as a local warehouse, but all of these are going to be hosted in the cloud. And for the most part, we host ours in Amazon cloud. There's certainly other options out there. And the goal is to make it easier to catalog, share, discover, and retrieve the products of Riverscape analyses and modeling and tools. And so remember, we wrap up those products in Riverscape projects. And the way this is set up is we'll have various tools or applications, right? And they adhere to Riverscape compliance standards, and so they basically produce those Riverscape projects. And then they can interact directly with this application programming interface that puts these things in a data warehouse, okay? And so one of the things that a warehouse is basically just an explorer. So this is an example here. There's some projects, Riverscape projects in here of different flavors. Looks like some Valley Bottom and Riverscape Context projects. And you know, you can search and query these things. And probably the easiest thing to do is just to show you. So this is an example of one of these Riverscape Warehouse Explorers. And you know, any organization could stand up one of these with some help. But these are different programs. So if we would go to like the Champ program, here is you come in, you can go to any of these, and it has basically the contents of that Riverscapes project in it and some basic information about it. And you can download individual pieces out of it if that's what you want, or you can download the whole project zip file. Okay. But one of the things that's really powerful is you can have in any warehouse, you can have lots of different project types. So we've got, you know, in here, these CAD exports from surveys. It looks like there's a bunch of hydro projects. These hydro projects, these are hydraulic model outputs. And so, you know, you can go and on any of these, you could grab what's in these and download it, and then you can open it up in Rave and do what you will with it. And so certainly this concept of just a place that's cataloged, and you can have a map-based explorer in addition to just, you know, sort of listing and querying of things. That's one of it. One of the reasons why you might want to have a warehouse is it allows you to create these searchable and queryable sort of catalogs, if you will. You could also make custom web maps from it. You can build field apps. It allows secure hosting for easy public sharing, or even having full, you know, users have to log in. There's a bunch of cloud computing that this opens up. And so when we talk about production grade models, these are things we don't want to be running at our desktop. These are things where we're going to run these on the cloud in highly scalable and or parallelized environments. It allowed licensing of the data sets so that they're shareable, for example, with Creative Commons licenses. Ability to potentially mint DOIs to make your data sets citable. As well as providing API access to for programmers so that they can have a model that is making a call to data that lives on a warehouse and or populating data in that warehouse instead of having to do everything locally and then push that up, or go download a bunch of stuff manually and then work with it. There's also the ability to create web mapping tile services so that others can access the data through simple GIS tools. And then, of course, the Rave toolbar, which we've talked about. And so what do you need to get that? Well, if we come back to those concepts that we had of tool grade, and pretty much anything that's Riverscape compliant, right, is producing Riverscape projects, and that's anything from research grade up on up, okay? But if we kind of take a closer look, you know, these research grade and operational grade, this is the sort of development, right? You got research, development, deployment. And in the stuff that's kind of under development, it's very easy to get access to then, searchable and queryable warehouse explorer, custom web maps, and easy public sharing as well as Rave. That's kind of the level of investment that's required, and what you get, there's these warehouses out of that. Now, when we start looking at some of these other things, these are more the products of, when we get professionals involved into deploying these tools and the data set outputs, that might be hosted in a data warehouse, where you need some a little bit heavier lifting. But these then allow us to maybe build custom field and desktop web apps and progressive web apps. They allow us to, control who can have access as opposed to just everybody can go and download this, and whether that's read or write access. Allow you to, scale up these production grade models, use things like EC2 and Lambda to run those models from the cloud, and all of these other kind of cool features that we talked about. So another example of the value of this is if you've got a warehouse, which is basically an Amazon, it's S3 buckets, simple scalable storage. That's a file server essentially. And if that information is up there on a bucket, then we can put a web map view into that, for example, here shown for Brett, that allows users that are not GIS people to interact with the outputs of these maps, look at some of the different products, etc. It does require curating that carefully so that it's not just overwhelming the amount of information there, but that the message is clearly curated to the audience you're trying to reach. But it is one of the advantages of being able to make your data sets reach more people. And then I've mentioned these progressive web apps and apps. Here's just some simple little examples here on the side from a low-tech process-based restoration planning app here, where you can go and do your planning and your design, etc. And so there's a video on the warehouse webpage of that, if that's something that you're interested in seeing how that can work. So a lot of advantages to using these data warehouses, and what we will leave you with is just the thought of the sort of possibilities. Who you can reach with your tools and with these data sets and your analyses, and professionally delivering to them that data in a way that they can engage with it. That's what the power of what we're trying to do with these standards that we're pushing for in the Riverscapes Consortium.